What if I told you that there's 3 science-backed supplements that can help you build muscle faster? They're safe, they're easy to find, and they're not that expensive. If that sounds good, stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome to the Digital Barbell Podcast. Thank you for being here. I'm Jonathan. In case this is your first time finding our podcast, if you like this kind of fitness and nutrition type content, make sure you subscribe before you leave. We're here to help. All right, we're talking about muscle building supplements today, so let's start off with an important reminder. Supplements are called supplements for a reason. They're only meant to fill in the gaps, not to take the place of the basics of proper training and nutrition. If your workouts, your sleep, and your overall diet isn't dialed in, there's no amount of supplements that can save you. The 3 supplements we're going to talk about for building muscle in this episode really do work, but they're just the cheese on top, not the entire enchilada. And before you start looking for a supplement that's going to help you build muscle, make sure your total calories are in check. Make sure you're eating enough protein, and make sure you're following a strength training program that uses progressive overload. Otherwise, you'll just be spinning your wheels. If you want to know how many calories and how much protein we recommend for you and your goals, we wrote a calculator for that. I'll put a link to it in the notes below. Okay, let's start with the king of muscle building supplements, protein powder. No matter how you spin it, building muscle requires protein. And getting most of your protein from whole sources like meat, dairy, eggs, and fish, that's ideal because it's going to be more satiating, it's going to get you more micronutrients and healthy fats, but sometimes you just don't have time for a meal, and that's where protein powder can help. The reason that protein powder is good for building muscle is just because it's protein. It's just food in a powdered form. There's nothing magic about it being powdered. It's still just protein. So what should you look for in a protein powder? Here are some tips. If you tolerate dairy, just stick with whey protein. It's easily digestible. It's packed full of essential amino acids, including leucine, the branched chain amino acid most responsible for building muscle. It's relatively cheap and easy to find. If you're lactose intolerant, look for a whey protein isolate or look for a veggie protein like pea, rice, or soy. Next thing you want to do is check the ingredient list. You really want minimal amounts of fillers and additives. You really just want to see the whey, maybe a little bit of sweetener, and sometimes a natural flavoring to make it taste like something delicious. Make sure your protein powder is giving you between 20 and 30 grams of protein for somewhere around 100 to 150 calories per serving. That's the sweet spot for building muscle, and it's also going to show you that you're not getting a lot of extra calories from carbs and fats. We teach our clients not to rely on protein powder as their main source of protein, but instead use it as a way to fill in the gaps. You can use it as a post-workout shake, you can add it to oatmeal for breakfast, or even throw it into some Greek yogurt. All right, let's move on to muscle building supplement number 2. We're talking about creatine. Creatine is one of the most researched supplements known to man, and when you combine it with smart training that includes progressive overload, it's probably the safest, most effective, legal performance enhancer that you can get. Let's talk about how it works. Creatine helps you do more work in your workouts by helping you replenish your energy more quickly. This is especially beneficial in stuff like weightlifting, sprinting, or other high-intensity exercise. Essentially, it lets you do a little bit more in every single workout, which compounds over time. Plus, when creatine gets stored in your muscles, it binds with water, which can help give you a little bit more of a full look. A lot of recent research on creatine is showing some really promising effects as far as memory and cognition, so yet another reason to supplement with creatine. So what should you look for in a creatine supplement? We recommend that you just stick with an inexpensive creatine monohydrate powder. It's cheap, it's easy to find, and there's decades of research that back it up. I've been using the same creatine for the last 10 years, so I'll put a link to the one that I use in the notes below. Okay, so how much creatine should you take? Just take 5 grams per day. It's about a heaping tablespoon. You don't need to cycle on or off it or anything like that. You just need to be consistent with taking it at the most convenient time for you every day. You'll get the maximum benefit just by keeping it simple like that. It'll take about 2 weeks for your muscles to reach full creatine saturation, but you'll start getting the benefit from it right away. Let's talk about some of the common concerns and questions about creatine. Does creatine cause bloating? I mentioned earlier that when your body stores this extra creatine, it binds with water, so you might see a slight increase in your weight as you start taking creatine, but that's not fat gain, it's just a little bit of extra water retention. Some people wonder if creatine is bad for your kidneys. In short, no. The current research says that if you do not have pre-existing kidney issues, creatine is completely safe. Just remember this important note about creatine. It doesn't build muscle on its own. What it does is give you energy to be able to push your workouts harder, which can result in more muscle gain over the long term. In other words, you still have to keep putting the effort in. Okay, let's move on to the third and final muscle building supplement in this episode. We're talking about caffeine. You probably already rely on caffeine to get going in the morning, but it is also a proven performance enhancer. Here's what caffeine does for you. It increases your alertness and your focus so you can get in the zone for your workout. It can help reduce your perceived exertion, meaning you can push yourself harder and get more out of your workouts. Caffeine has been shown to increase strength and endurance, which can help you push out extra reps. But before you go slamming a bunch of caffeine, let's talk about the effective and safe dose. The research says that about 3 to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram that you weigh is the sweet spot. For a 150-pound person, that will be between 200 and 400 milligrams. It's also recommended that you take caffeine about 30 to 60 minutes before your workout because it does take some time to kick in. We've got another podcast dedicated to dosing caffeine, so I'll put a link to that below. But one thing I want to say is that the recommended maximum amount of caffeine per day is about 400 milligrams for an adult. So when you think about your pre-workout caffeine, look at it in the context of how much caffeine you're having throughout the whole day. And if you're somebody who works out in the afternoon, you got to be mindful of how that caffeine is going to affect your sleep, because sleep is also really important for building muscle. All right, so there we have it. Protein powder, creatine, and caffeine. 3 supplements that when used correctly can help you build muscle more efficiently. But let me just say again that none of these supplements are magic. Protein powder won't make up for a bad diet. Creatine won't replace hard training. And caffeine won't give you any results if you're skipping your workout. They're all just tools that can help you, but it's up to you to use them wisely. If you found this episode helpful, feel free to share it with a friend or post it to your social media account. Just make sure that you tag us so we can shout you out. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a great day.